Hello.
Hello.
Okay, so let me just, I'm using Windows, so I'm just going to cd back and I'm gonna create no, X, create React app and unit 4. Right, I'm just gonna create the app right now.
Is this recording, by the way?
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I did it. This is how like it should look like. So you would look I don't know, right now, and then you would get the 2 rows, right? And then you could just click on whatever. And no copyright, so I'll I'll stop it, and then you would have your name, and then your comment. This song is awesome. And then you submit, and then you can see the comments. You can keep commenting out, right? Let's see, media queries. I mean, it's responsive. It doesn't have to be, but I think. Hold on a second. Yeah. And that's because of ad blocker. And then, you know, when you zoom in, it's supposed to change. And then it just like, it goes in there to responsive. And then here, once it gets to a certain point, it creates a little overflow thing. So this is deployed. You can, you know, you can visit it if you want. All right. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do today. Okay. All right. So let me see if it finished downloading. It did. Oh wait, what is this? It's still. Is it still installing? I think so. So hold on. Yeah, it's still installing. Sorry. Any questions so far? I hate the time it takes to create a new app. Wait, did it end already? Well, I think it crashed. So, yep. That sucks. Let me just open up this again. Oh man. Sorry. Okay. Okay, it's working. Okay. Here we go. And let's start with the dependencies we're gonna use, which would be React routed on, and so let's install that. And Axios. And for now, that's all we need, I think.
Question. Because I was doing research last night on like ideas how to create this YouTube thing, and they have a YouTube router or YouTube React, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need it. You really don't. I didn't use it, to be honest.
You didn't use the YouTube thing with the API key?
Oh, no, I didn't use, what do
No,
you call it?
there's a YouTube router or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use it.
Yeah, so I did not use, what do you call, the React router, the React YouTube npm thing. Yeah. You could just use embed tag, and then I'll show you how I did it. You don't need to. It's basically the same thing, though. So let's just let this install here.
So for the goal of this, I don't want us to get too caught up on this YouTube specifics, right? Because I hear people already talking about different YouTube things, but there's lots of ways to implement it. The exam is not going to be YouTube. So it's good to know how to implement things with YouTube and whatnot, but it's not important that we get too caught up in those details. I mean, even if John just has a components that pretend that could be fake YouTube things, it would be enough because it's a representation of what the code should actually be doing.
All right, so we see here Axios and React Router done, so that's good. Okay, now I want to create a folder called components. And here I'm gonna have 3 pages. So I'm gonna have my video page. I'm gonna have, what else I'm gonna have? I think the about page. I'm gonna have the home page. And I'm gonna have, for now, that's it. Okay, so let's just start this up. Just to keep going. And, okay. Okay, so it's working. So we go back to our code here, and we really don't need any of that. So we can just delete it. And save it again. It works. Okay, so first things first, we were gonna import, we're going to import React Router DOM. We're gonna use a browser router to and we are going to import it from React Router DOM. What the hell? Okay. And we are going to wrap this. What? That is weird. We're going to wrap it into. I've never seen this before. Into here, into our app.js. So we're going to have router. And paste it here. So we can use this on our app.js. And in app.js is going to be our where we handle our routing, right? So we're going to have to import in here. Let's see, we don't need the logo. It can be out. So we're going to import switch. We are going to use it here to be able to display one thing at a time. So let's do that.
So just to jump in real quick, I want to answer Henry's question, which is, Henry says, can you explain router real quick, please? So router, you're talking about React. If you're talking about React Router DOM, React Router DOM is an NPM package that allows us to do routing in our app. So routing is link tags that take us to a different page, as well as having routes that render specific components. So when we are using browser router, or John named it as router, that is a wrapper component. So that is a component that is going to be wrapping the entirety of our app, that's going to allow us to use all of those things that are that we get from React Router DOM. So if you don't wrap your app in browser router, you can't use the route, you can't use link, you can't use switch, you can't use any of those if you're not inside of a browser router or hash router. Those are different types of routings that wrap the entire component, and I'll give you that ability.
All right. So we're gonna have is it about page, the videos page, and the home page. So let's just, for the sake of having them, let's just have that. We're gonna call it about page. We're gonna have our home page. And let's start with home page. And let's try it. So const home and that. We're gonna export it. Why is it doing that? Okay, and we're gonna copy this, and we're gonna go to our about page, and we're gonna just go to about. About page. Okay, so we're gonna import them to our app.js because that's where we're gonna do our routing. So okay, we're gonna import it. About. So this is in our components folder. So you can see here components, and we're gonna go to our about, and then about, and we are also going to have our home page. Same thing. Okay, now saved. Okay, so now we can start using our switch. So we imported route, and we're going to use it to only render that specific page when we hit that path. So we would have route, and we could do it two ways. Let's do it the most recent way, where we can just wrap that component into that route. We pick the path that we wanted to render on, which is going to be home. Is not going to render on the default URL page. So we could just write here home. And why does it do that? And there you go. And our about page.
Question.
Yep.
Would you, when you are getting the path for home, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't write. Why are you not writing exact path?
You're right, actually. You're right. I should write exact path for that one. And for this one, you don't need it. And in here, we import the component that we're going to use, which is about.
So just to jump in and be part of this, so let's talk a little bit about why we would add exact path versus why we would not. So exact path. So if something starts, so all paths are going to start with a slash. So we see that if we go to the about page, it's still a slash and about, while our home page is just a slash. So when routes look for matching, they look for partial matches. So if it is slash about, because home's path is included in that, we would still see the home component. By saying exact, we're saying we only want this component to show if the route is exactly this route, not if it's a partial match, if it's exactly this route.
Yep. All right, so let's just test it out. And we would go here to, it already says home, so that's great. Let's test the about page. And it takes us to our about page, which is also nice. So now we have to go back and let's see, we can start with our home page. Okay, let's actually put some data in here. Our home page is gonna handle our queries. So it means it's gonna have some state on it. So we can, we're gonna use hooks for that. And we're gonna use state, and we're gonna use effect. And we know that we're gonna use Axios for that too, so we should import Axios here. And let's say we are also going to be using our, let's see, for now, that's it. So how do we want to do this is we're gonna get, we're gonna make a call to the YouTube API, and then we're going to be handling that here, and then we're gonna funnel that information towards other components to handle that. So let's just start by making the query, the input, right, the search. So that should be an input tag. And in React, they can be self-closing. But we know that doing this, we're gonna be handling input in other components. So we can just go here and create a new file called custom hooks. And in here, we're gonna use React, and we're gonna use state. So this is gonna be handling our user input. So let's call it user input. And as a starting value, we're gonna use initial value. And this is going to have our value and how we want to set that value. Well, where's the question? Okay. Okay. So we're going to use state here.
So if you decide to build a custom hook, which is not at all required for the exam, please remember your custom hook. All hooks must start with the word use. And so we wouldn't have user input on this one. We would just have use input.
You're right. I keep getting confused. There you go. Okay, so we're gonna use for the input tag. So I mean, yeah. So we're gonna have a way to handle that, which is gonna be const handle change, which would take the similar to before how we used the event.target.value. We're gonna use our function here to handle that, and this is gonna be the event.target.value. We also want to make it easier, we can have handle focus, where it just highlights when you click on it all the text inside of it. So we can do that by event.target.select. Oof. Okay, and after that, we can just return this as an object, which would give us back our value. Our handle change, that's gonna be every time we use it on change. And we can also have on focus. This is gonna fire every time we use it on focus. So it's gonna be handle focus. So we are going to import that into our home.js. So we're gonna import it by going here and have to export it. Actually, we can just export it. And we can export used input from, and then again, we can see what do we have here. We can have to go back one level and another level. And here we have custom hooks, and we have our custom hook here. And in here, we're gonna use this custom hook to handle our user input here. So let's try by using the custom hook. So this is gonna handle our search. And we're gonna use it with our initial value of an empty string. And in here, we're just gonna get everything that we have here and break it out of it. And let's see if we have something here. We can just test it out by having search value. And what am I doing wrong? Oh, it's outside. So React only returns one component that is wrapped other components. So we have to do it inside the div. There you go. Okay, let's try it. And let's go to home, which is default URL. And we can try. Can't really see it, but it's right there. We can just go here and we can wrap this into an h1 tag. Cut. Okay, yeah. So here we can see it works. So that's good. That's a good thing. Always check if it works. Oh, man, I wish I could see the comments. I don't know. Okay, so let's keep going. Now we are actually going to be able to handle the search. Now we can we have to have some state that handles our query. So we're going to have another state, which we're going to call it query results, and set query results. Okay, and this one we're just going to use effect, use state. And since we usually have a response as an array, we're just going to have that there. And now this is going to be what we get back from our YouTube response, right? Now we can actually have a function that handles our Axios call. And let's see, can have that, and we can have a make query. Hold on a second.
Just a quick announcement before I forget. So because of New York State's mandate to close all non-essential places of business at 8 p.m. tomorrow, Pursuit will have to close its location. So if you have things that you need to get from there or anything like that, that would be good because the space will be closed. Just a heads up.
Okay, sucks. So every time we use an Axios, we have to use async. We have to use async, and so this is going to be our query for the YouTube. Good. So with that, put it over here. Okay. So I don't know how many people actually got to actually getting the API key or understanding how the YouTube API works, but it's a bit weird, and there was many ways you could do it. Yes, thank you, Maria. It is the way. Okay. Over here. So let's see. Let's start with basics. So the basic API request would have been this, and from here we can add more params onto it. Let's say we had like parameters where it was a, let's say we want 8 videos, so to get that we could have max results and then set that equal to 8. And then we can also have, we wanted our type of video to be equal to just video, because you can have searches and like channels and all that, but we only want videos this time. And we also want our part. Why is this doing that? Okay, and we also want the type of, I don't know what this means, but you need it for this API called snippet. That gives you basically the information of the video. So we can actually just add on to that right here, which will be max results. Max results, and is going to be equal to 8. And same like queries before, we add an and to keep adding on to it, and it's going to be the type. It's going to be equal to video, and let's see. We can also have our part is going to be equal to snippet. And we also want our query, which is the most important part, to be equal to whatever we're searching, and we have our data of whatever we're searching here on search. So how do we get to there? We can use a string to add on to here. And we are going to use search dot value. And now we also need our API key. So we can also add our key value that's going to be equal to our API key. Okay, let's see. Where's it? Okay, there. Okay, so this is how we're. Yes, you can pass an object. You're right. I don't remember. Hold on. Not now. Okay, so this time you can just pass an object called params, but I want to do it this way because this is the way I have it. And yes, square equal. And now we actually have to pass our API key, which would be on our secret folder. I mean, file, which we should create. And it's going to be called secret. I like to make it a JSON. And this is going to be called. You can make it whatever, as long as you. Hold on a second. And we just set that equal to, I have my key here. So whatever key you got, you're gonna paste it here. And that should be it. And now we're gonna, the very first step should be to ignore it on your git ignore. So we're gonna go here. And since it's on the same path, we're just gonna do secret.json, save it. And then you can see here, it got grayed out. If it gets grayed out, it means you don't, it's been ignored. So yeah. So, okay, so that is gonna be that there. And we are going to import that here. It's gonna be, actually, how do I import? We're going to import our secret from our back here, secret JSON. And we don't need that anymore. And in here, since this is a JSON object, we will have to key into it by dot whatever I named it here, which is secret. Okay, so it works now, and now we have our query done. And all right, so now we have our home component, right? So we have to break this up into little pieces. So we preferably want to create a new component called search form, where we are going to handle all that. it's going to be called search form, and it's going to take in props for now, but let's just have nothing for now, and then export default of search form. Okay, so return. We're gonna return something, and let's see. We're just gonna see if it works, and this is my form. Okay, and now we're gonna import it here. Search. Since this is on the same path, we just have to do // and then we would just do search. And I put 2 dots. Okay, so let's try it and see if it works here. Search form. And so you can see here, this is your form, it's working, we're connected it correctly. So again, we got to go back here. And let's see. What else? Okay, so now we can actually work through our form where we will pass down our search. Where actually all this is going to be handled in the form. So we would have this here. And we have to put in form because we're going to handle submit. So we're going to have that here, and we are not going to use this here, I think. Where are we? No, we're going to use that here. We're just going to pass it down. And we are also going to use our other input, which can be an input again, but this time I want to make it a button because you can. And this is going to be a type of submit, and we're going to name it search. And whoa, what happened here? Okay, yeah, okay. So we have to actually pass down search. And from here, we actually have to pass down search here. And save it. Okay, so now it should work the same. And we have our button, which is going to be our submit. And we all know that our form is the one that listens to the submit. So we have to make a function that handles the submit.
Why are you using a spread operator on search in the search form?
Because, okay, our custom hooks. So in here, we have all this object here that has the value, the onChange, and onFocus, right? So when we use the spread operator on here, it breaks it out of that object, and it gives our input our value. It gives it all these 3 properties. So it would be the equivalent of of writing here value equals to value, to the value that the value, and then it would be the equivalent of writing onChange equals handle.
Okay, so then can you just explain how the custom hook is working?
Okay, what part? Like, Custom hook. Okay. Let's see. Okay, custom hooks. You're basically holding, making the initial state of it a variable, and then in here you're also making what you're holding a variable. So like an input, you don't have to write it twice, and you when you create a custom hook here, it just holds that value. It has all these properties already, so you don't have to write this down, right? So if you were to write this, like use state here, it only has this value and the function for it. But while if you use a custom hook, you already have like the value of having that value and the function for it, and functions for that value that you just created. So it's you have more custom functions for whatever thing you want to handle. So
And what is the handle focus doing?
okay, so handle focus is when you, let's say hello, right? And then I click outside of it, and then I click inside. It selects everything.
Okay.
So you don't have to like, this would be like the normal function, and then you have to start typing, right? So, but what I made is, so when you type, and then you want to search for something else, you just click here, and it highlights everything, and you can look for something else.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what the custom focus is for.
Hey, John, I had a question on why you're choosing to keep the search form state in a different component instead of in the search form and sending it up on a submit.
What was the question? Sorry.
The question was, how come you're choosing to keep the search form state in its parent component instead of just sending it up on a handle submit?
I don't think you can send it from the child to the parent. Is that?
Well, if you pass a handle submit in, you could pass it up.
Okay. So I would just have to handle a submit, or just pass handle submit here. And I would have to just keep this state on the form. Is
Right.
that what you're?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then you could pass whichever value is up to the parent when it's time to submit.
Okay.
So your handle submit would take in the event as well as the or it could just take in the value, and you'd have a handle submit in your form that just calls prevent default and calls the other handle submit above or something.
Oh, okay. I actually didn't know that, because before I had the handle the form in the same place. So okay, so you're saying I can just move this out and have it here, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay, and I would need to use this custom hook here. I would just use it here.
Great. So the reason that I prefer that method, for anyone who's wondering why I'm jumping in, is because we're using this form component as a form to go retrieve this information. The way it's being used the other way. It's really just being used as a display component instead of. So it seems like a form should have its own state of what's within that form, and then only when it's time to submit that form does that form give up its state.
Okay. Okay. All right. So I would just have the handle submit here, right?
Yeah, handle submits remains in the parent component.
Okay, and this would take the event. And this would have the prevent.
So it will take the event and the input, or just the input, and you can prevent the default somewhere else. Like you could call this update queries instead of handle submit.
Okay, update queries. I actually never done this, so update queries. Okay.
So
And
instead
this,
of RE, it will be our query.
okay. and our query. Okay, I see. Oh, okay, I see what. And then we will use this query to make this call here. Okay. Okay, so this would mean that our query would be, okay, so this would take our query value, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And our query value would be here. Okay, so let's continue with that. Let's continue with the form. So now that we actually have that, we can handle submit, add, and in here we would just have to pass down our what is it called? Update queries. Update queries, okay. And in here, we would call our update queries, right?
That's correct. And we also have to prevent our default.
Yep. Prevent.
That query variable should be search.value.
Yep. Yep. I was getting there. It should be search value. And okay. And then all right.
Line 6, I think you have an E next to unhandle submit.
Prevent.
Oh, on line 6.
You have an extra E, it's a misspelling.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks. It's my keyboard. Okay. Completely not my fault. Okay. So search query, search is not defined on line 23 at home. So we would not need this here. Okay. Okay, so that's that. And now we have our input and our submit button. And now we have to actually handle submit here. So we go on submit. We're going to execute this function. All right. Okay, so that would be it for this part here. And I don't think we need something else. Okay. Okay, so now we can actually make our query here. So we can just console log, my God, or debugger, use debugger, sure. So we can actually try it out. Let's see, before we keep going anywhere else and updating stuff. So this would be here. We're gonna search and we're gonna send back our update. Actually, I think I called it query. What did I call it? It was update queries. Yes.
Just because I've been asked this question a few times, right? What John is doing right now is passing props. So this is the way props are passed, always and forever. They will come in as an object in the child component, and you can access those via props. So you could say props dot whatever is being passed in, or you can do object destructuring, which is what John is doing on line 4 of the search form component, where he's saying exactly which things he wants to take out of the props object.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's test out and see if we're actually getting our value from our form back into home. So we could just do that and J, and then here we can do this is a test, then we submit, and then we go to console and we know here that the value of query is what we want. So, and we do get it back. So everything's working so far. Everything's good. So we can move on from there. Okay. And let's see. Yeah. Okay. So now we can make a query here. Query, and it takes in the value of our query value, which is in this case is query. And since this is going to return a promise, we also have to make this a async, and we have to await. And this is gonna give us back a response from YouTube. So we can set this to a variable. We call it YouTube response. And we can go to debugger again, and we can try it. We can look up, I don't know, something. And then we go and check for our YouTube response. Okay, so we're getting our YouTube response, and it is looking good. So now usually, okay, so now we have our YouTube response, we have to key into it. So we usually care about data, which is still good. So we actually only care about our items, which is 8 items or YouTube objects. So we could do youtube.data.items. So let's try it again. YouTube response.data.items. And there we go. So we need this into our here. So now we're gonna change our empty array into a, we're gonna set it to our response. Here, we will use what we have here, which would be YouTube response.data.items. And now our state should be the response that we got from YouTube. But initially, okay, so now that's fine. So we also, now we have our response, we are going to have a component that displays our, whoa, what happened? Hold on. Okay, sorry. Okay, so now.
John, before we get too far, looking at the code, give it a second, everybody, and see if you can see a way that John could improve his update queries function. Don't give it away right away, John.
Okay.
All right, what do we think? Do we have any? Marvin's got his hand raised, John.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, Marvin, can you give us your suggestion?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you have YouTube res.data.items. Can't you just take out items? Like you can destructure items from that, and that way you don't have to write that full thing there. So you know, it makes it a bit cleaner.
Wait, what do you mean? Items? The
So,
structure items?
Yeah, like take items from there. Like you can destructure items out of that. Like let items equal, like let items like in the curly brackets equal YouTube res.data
So let items
in an object.
equal. Oh, in
No,
the item.
yeah. Put items inside of an object. Like put items inside of a thing.
I think we could just iterate through it as an array. Actually,
Okay.
I think that's
the only thing I could think of. Sorry.
okay. Okay, so I forgot to add a way to error handle. Yeah. So try and catch would be the way. So we can actually add this, so we can actually be able to error handle here. And we also have to have our catch. And in case we fail, we can just console log for now our error. Okay, so what I also like to do and recently started doing is that you can access the document, and then you can change the title to be equal to whatever your query was. So I don't know, it seems fun and you know, a bit more realistic to what you are doing. So we can also do that here, and dot title could be error. You know, be more professional about it later, but you know, let's say we have, let's try it. And then this is the new title. So, and it changes it if it's if we get a good response, it changes it. But then if we have an error here, we can, it tells you it's an error. So similar to what YouTube does, you could just do YouTube, and then when you are searching for something, it tells you what you're searching for. So we could do that. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's something you can add on to it. And this, you could have done this with DOM manipulation too. You could had access to document.title. So that's something nice. Okay, so now we can actually have an error handling here, and we actually are updating our queries. So let's try to actually go back and clean this there. Save. Okay, so yeah, okay. Now we are going to display our what we're getting back. Okay, so we should create a component called display query, and we are going to create this on the same file. So this should be from display query.js. Okay, and this would be displayed here. So in here, we're going to map through our results and give back what we see. This is going to be our component where we map through it and display our thumbnails. Okay, so let's do that. Okay. So we know it's an array, so let's take that into account and create a new file called display query. Yes. Okay, so again, we have to import React. And we are going to have const. And we are going to be passing our array. So we can name this queries array display. I don't know, array of videos, or just array videos, whatever. I'm so bad at naming. Okay, so don't forget to export. Y, and it's going to be display query. And in here, we know that we're getting an array of items. So what we can do here is expect an array of items. So let me see what I did. Okay, so we expect an array of items. So let's see, we can have we're gonna map through it. And let's see, array videos, or it could be called video, right? Video. And this is going to be an array, right? So we can just map through it. And for every video, we will be creating a new component, which will be, we can call it maybe thumbnail display. So we're going to be returning our thumbnail display here. So we're going to have to create another component to we want to keep this as clean as possible, right? So we can call this thumbnail display. And let's keep it at that for now. But before we do that, let's just see if it works. We're just going to have to paste this here and comment it out for now, and then let's say we're going to return a div that says this is a video. Let's just try it out and test it out, and we're going to map through this, and this is going to be our display. And in here we're going to return our display. Okay. So what we're going to do here is, let's see, okay, we're here, right? So we already have our array of videos. Okay, now we just have to make sure they exist. And how we can do that is having a ternary here that asks if our query results have a length. That's the one way we can check this. So that means it has items on it, right? So if our query results has a length to it, we want to display our query display. I mean this display query component. And we have to pass this here. But before we do that, we're gonna say otherwise. We're gonna display a div that it's gonna say I think it was search something in the input. So that's going to be, this is only going to be displayed if we have a result for our queries. But this should always be displayed. So we just have to make this sure it's on top of it. And displays management. Okay. Okay, so let's try it out. But we also have to pass down here our query results, which we named here a videos array. So let's do that and update it. Videos array is going to be equal to our query results. And now we're going to go through here and we're going to display all the for every video that we get back, we're going to display a new div that says this is the video. Okay, so let's try something else. And it's working. And we also found the little key thing from React that always likes to have a key. So we can have this have a key be equal to the index. So we also have to pull out the index. And the index here. And I like to, sometimes if you keep having like, I don't know, larger components, it eventually the index is not enough. So I like to put the index and then have a string here, like have video and then dash, I don't know, whatever. Am I doing this?
John, do your videos have a ID?
They do, yeah. You're right, I should use their ID, but let's do that actually. But okay, so now we have a safe way to actually try it without it throwing errors. So we should use the ID there. So let's actually try it with the videos. We will have that here, and we actually will use our debugger, and we will see what information we have here so far. Okay, so our information would be video. So each video is going to have a kind, which is a result. We don't need that. E-tag, we might need it. I don't know, you don't need it either. What we care about here is the ID, which would be the video ID. And we also care for, I guess, the title and we don't really care about description and the thumbnail. So what we can do here is key into it at id.video ID. And we can use that in here. So we can do video dot ID dot video ID. So we use that, and that's not gonna give us an error.
So just to answer some questions, because I've gotten a bunch of questions on the key. The key is for React. It's not for you. The key, React, it uses a virtual DOM. So it runs a diffing algorithm between the virtual DOM and the real DOM to make updates. Now, the key is something React uses, to keep track of what's on the DOM at a current time. So if anything updates, deletes, or gets added, it can tell. So keys must be unique, and there are strings of ultimately, although you can use indices if you have no ID or unique thing available to you. Indices are what React uses by default if you don't pass in a key. So you get rid of the warning by passing in the index, but it's already got the index because that's what it uses by default. But so you should use a unique identifier when possible. So that's what the warning message is. That's what the keys are. Part of the test will be to have a clean console. So we definitely don't want to see any of those warnings on the exam.
Okay, so we have this video component, which we actually want to have a div here. So we're making this, we can make that into a component that displays our thumbnail. So we're going to call it thumbnail display. And it's going to be on the same path. It's going to be here. Okay, so we're going to have this here, thumbnail display. And now let's create it. It's going to be a part of home. And it's going to be called thumbnail display.js. And it's just going to be from React. Okay, so const thumbnail display. and it's gonna take in a video object. And we're gonna render it here. So we can have this, and we know our video object is gonna have a title. So we can have, we can key into it, and I think, did we refresh? Damn, we refreshed. Okay, we need, so video. Okay, so the important information we need here is gonna be the video ID and title and the thumbnail. So that's 3 things, all right? So let's start with the, let's say we're gonna start with the title. So how do we get to the title? It's gonna be video.snippet.title. So let's do that. Video.snippet.title. And we also wanna have our thumbnail picture, which we duplicate thumbnail dot I think snippet dot thumbnails dot so there's 3 sizes. I picked the one that's the largest because the way I display it, you know, it's there. So which should be here, snippet, thumbnails, and hi, and then URL. So let's do that. Thumbnail, so hi.url. Okay. We also need our video ID. And this is going to be our video object dot actually ID dot video ID. Right. Okay. Now let's create our component. So for each video, we want to display a div, and this div is going to hold our title, which let's say is going to have. Actually, it's going to display our image first. Okay. And this is going to be our source. Is going to be equal to thumbnail link. And the alt can be the title. And then right below that, it's going to have the title of it, which we can just get by having title here. Okay. Okay, so in here, we are going to have that. And now we need the video ID. Why do we need the video ID? Because when we click on it, this is going to redirect us to videos / in the ID of the video. So should I have it here? Yes. So we can use a hook, a custom hook by React Router DOM called use, I think, history. And why is that happening? From React Router DOM. And we can use it here. We can do let history be equal to use history. And we just invoke it. And then we have to actually create a function to handle this. So we can do const, I don't know, send video redirect, which would take in the ID of the video, and it would redirect you to it. Which, how we can use this could be history dot push, and then we can have slash video, because that was asked, and then we could do the ID of the video. So why isn't it lighting up? Okay, am I doing it? Okay. Okay, there you go. So we can use this to redirect us to wherever we want. And we could add it to the image. So we can add an on-click to it where it just takes you to that. Actually, we can have this as the video ID, the div as a video ID. So we can have, how did I have it set up here?
Hey, John, maybe we could take a quick 5-minute
Yeah.
break.
All right, yeah, actually, good idea.